Right now, some of you are going here and you're struggling with some things. And you've been struggling for a while. The reason why you're struggling is because you're avoiding it. Fan, peace and blessings. This is Derric Rau Khu, and this video is by request. There was a couple of individuals who were asking about spiritual empowerment, and wanted to go ahead and talk about spiritual empowerment and what I think spiritual empowerment is and how to go about getting it from a Kemetic perspective. Again, this is my opinion and it's based upon my experience, so don't take this as, the only way of going ahead and doing this, or take my interpretation as being the only one that is correct, that's on point. But again, like I said, I'm just sharing my perspective from this. I usually go back whenever I'm talking about anything. Those of you who've been following this channel, or you've been on this channel, you've been following me and everything, a lot of times when I go in here and I speak about stuff, every time I speak about things, I talk about the one that pivotal moment in my life that caused all these changes. That basically, it was like the moment of my life where there was this major eureka moment. And that was the time when, like I said, my body became ill, so forth and so on. Now, the interesting thing about that moment is that prior to that happening, there were a lot of theories, there were a lot of things I was following, a lot of people I was following, and so forth and so on. And, I always, like I said, I refer back to this, always refer back to this moment, this period of my life, mainly because what happened was, when I was laying on the gurney, laying in the hospital on the gurney, and I'm sitting up here kind of contemplating, how do I get myself in this situation? How do I get myself in this situation after eating healthy, after, subscribing to certain beliefs and practices, and how did I get myself in this situation? How did this happen? It was at that moment when I'm starting to think about this, that's when, like I said, those of you who've heard this story, that's when I met my ancestors. Let me rephrase that. That's when I met my ancestors and spirit guides. Now, when I say that I met them, it's not like they materialized out of thin air and there they were. It was more so, it was a telepathic type of thing. I could sense that they were there. I could feel that they was there. I was, I ask a question and that response comes right back to me. It was at that moment that I kind of got an understanding that spirits are real. Even though I had an ancestor altar for quite some time. It was at that moment that I ran ahead and I realized spirits were real. It was at that moment I realized that spirit guides were real. But it also made me see some other things, and it changed my perspective on a lot of things. Because in order for me to heal my body, in order for me to recover, the way the question was posed to me was that, you've heard the saying, how BS walks, it was that kind of thing that basically took place. That's pretty much what I had to go ahead and for the most part, what came to mind. because it was like I had all these different theories. I've heard all these theories. I heard all these people talking about, hey, this was the way in which you had to do things and all this other kind of stuff. But like I said, when I was laying on the gurney, it was like I had to go in here, and it was like, in order for me to heal my body, I had to apply what actually worked. Basis, so in other words, it was, if it was a theory, we're going to go in here and we're going to put it to the test. And when I put it to the test, there was a whole lot of stuff that basically fell apart. There was a whole lot of theories that fell apart. There was a whole lot of people's interpretation of Kemetic spirituality and all this that fell apart. Now understand, I'm not saying that my interpretation of Kemetic spirituality or my interpretation of any of this is, like I said, is for everybody. I'm not even saying that it is accurate, it's on point, or any of that. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm not trying to get a following. I'm not trying to, convince people that my way is the only way or my way is the way and all that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to do that, okay? I'm just telling you my truth. This is my ma'at, okay? This is my personal truth. This is what I've experienced. And based upon what I've experienced, when I went in here and, like I said, I put it up in the air to see what works, it was like all the stuff that didn't float, basically that's what happened. It just kept going, all right? It just moved along, okay? Everything else, like I said, the real stuff is what basically is what I ended up dealing with. And it was based upon that perspective. I know, so I'm talking in codes and everything, but it's based upon that perspective that, like I said, my Kemetic spirituality, my interpretation of Kemetic spirituality developed. And I no longer saw Osir or Osiris as the savior of humanity, so forth and so on, okay? Instead, what I saw Osir as, as a matter of fact, the story of Osir, it basically, how do you put it? It, for the most part, it unfolded differently. Only because of me being in that, like I said, me being in that ill state, that ill health state. And the way Osir basically appeared to me was a superior being with no human experience, okay? A very, highly, up in the clouds individual, okay? And it was interesting that he appeared to me that way because that's pretty much how I went in here and I viewed things. That was how I looked upon people and all that kind of stuff. I went in here and I, like I said, I looked at things from that perspective. I was really up in the clouds. Those people who went in here and they saw me, those individuals who knew me back in that day, back in the day, they'll tell you, there was a lot of things in which I was really all about theory, okay? So that's how Osir appeared to me. Osir appeared to be, for the most part, he was, like I said, up in the clouds. Nose was up in the air, okay? Not that he was, conceited or stuck up or anything like that, but it was someone who was too spiritual, okay? Very naive. Set, on the other hand, was, of course, the total opposite, okay? So extremely materialistic, extremely egotistic, you name it, okay? Very, very grounded in the material. And it was while I was, like I said, on the gurney, this is when HRU appeared to me. And HRU went in here and appeared and basically helped me to see that it's about balance, okay? HRU basically draws from both of them. Yes, we got to be spiritual, but at the same time, we got to be realistic. We got to be practical, okay? And it was from this understanding that helped me to realize, that helped me to see that Set is not evil, Okay? In fact, Osir is not evil. But at the same time, Osir is not perfectly good, as well as, for the most part, and like I said, Set is not, perfectly bad or whatever. Okay? If that makes sense, okay? Both of them, if you're too much Osir, then you're imbalanced. This is what my ancestors were sharing with me. If you're too Osir, you're too spiritual, okay, you're imbalanced. If you're dealing with Set, you're imbalanced. Balance, Ma'at, deals with being HRU. Deals from drawing from both. And that is the state that I see a lot of individuals, especially a lot of individuals who get into Kemetic spirituality. That's where I see us at. That's where I see a lot of us when we start off, what we get into. We go ahead and we're all about the whole Kemetic thing. We're all about the Kemetic thing. We're all about the metaphysics and all that kind of stuff until it's not practical. It's not even, it's not sensible. Okay. We do things without, we do things based upon from a theoretical perspective. Yeah. Cause in theory, it sounds great. In theory, it should work, but from a practical perspective, it doesn't. From a practical perspective, it's not going to work. Okay. And, that's what spirituality is to me. Spirituality, a Kemetic spirituality, and let me rephrase that, spiritual empowerment means becoming more HRU. Okay. You're becoming more HRU. You're becoming more balanced. You're going ahead and yes, you rely upon your higher self. You rely upon your spirits. You rely upon your ancestors. You rely upon their insight, your guides, and so forth and so on. But at the same time, you need that practical experience. You need that practical side. This is the reason why we're here. We're here to go ahead and bring balance into our life. Okay? And like I said, when you think about it from that perspective, there's a lot of things that are going on. And I want you to kind of understand that. And I want to I'm kind of focusing on that, and I'm kind of harping on that, mainly because another thing I noticed that a lot of times, a lot of people do, is they go in here and they do readings from this fortune-telling perspective in an effort to avoid certain things, okay? Well, I'm not going to deal with this individual because, I think this individual is going to be this way. Okay. Or they go ahead and they ask the oracle, hey, do you think I should do this? Do you think I should do that? Okay. That's not how you're supposed to approach things. Okay. The whole purpose of, if you don't have any kind of, setbacks, if you don't have any kind of, obstacles or anything, how do you grow? Okay, but a lot of people who are into this whole, who are trying to be spiritual, who are all about being spiritual, are really about avoiding a lot of things. And that's not where you're going to grow from. All right, that's not where HRU grows from. And this is what they were telling me. This is what, like I said, and I remember it to this day. I remember it, like I said, this occurred almost 11 some years ago. Okay. But I remember it like it happened yesterday. This is what they were telling me. You're trying to avoid things. And you don't grow from avoiding things. Okay? You gotta be able to crawl before you can walk. You gotta be able to walk before you can run. So you gotta go through these things. Now, yes. Do you have to go through every obstacle? Do you have to have like a landslide that hit you in order for you to be empowered? No, but at the same time, if that's what it takes for you to go ahead and learn a lesson, then that's what it takes for you to learn a lesson. Okay? Right now, some of you are going here and you're struggling with some things. And you've been struggling for a while. The reason why you're struggling is because you're avoiding it. Okay? You know, you got a spouse, you know, your husband or your wife. You're struggling trying to go ahead and get things going to maintain some type of, you know, harmonious relationship with this individual that you know that you are in love with. Well, that's part of it. Okay, it's going to be a struggle. It's going because you're still playing that role. You're still doing that shu and tefnu. You're trying to go ahead and bring balance. You're still going ahead and doing that even in regards to trying to bring balance to things that's going on within you. Okay, and balance. Okay, balance deals with being HRU. Okay, balance deals with being HRU. You got to have enough. You got to have a little bit of ego. Okay, but at the same time, you got to be a little bit humble. Okay, you got to have some balance. All right. So I hope that makes sense. Hope that clarifies some things in regards to what was said about the, you know, like I said, about balance, about the spiritual empowerment. Okay, the more HRU you become, the more empowered you become. But notice, HRU is courageous. HRU goes ahead and is like, hey, takes the bull by the horn. I got to go ahead and I got to do this. Let's get it done. Let's go ahead. Let's suck it up. Let's get it done. And that's what we need. That's what we need in order for us to be empowered. All right. Until next time, Hetapoo fam. Peace.